And welcome back to EDH Deck Building. I am your host, Demo, and I am going to be a busy man for the next few days here because Dominaria United is coming out, and I like to talk about all the legendary creatures as they get spoiled, sort of first reactions, all that kind of stuff, and they're just absolutely overwhelming us already with all these legendary creatures. There's a ton. I don't know how many there's going to be. I'm going to guess around 50. There's so many to talk about. I already talked about 5. I'm going to do 5 more today. What I love about this, though, is that they're revisiting all these old legendary creatures from back in the day, in particular from the original Legend set. There's a whole bunch. But today, we're going to start out with Shieldrid. That's right, they came out with a new Shieldrid. As we've known for a while now, they're coming out with all the original Praetors sort of in different sets, right? So they came out with the new Jin Cataxius in Neon Dynasty. They came out with Vorinclex in, what was that, Kaldheim, right? So they've sort of been spitting them out as they go. Now we have a new Shieldrid in this set, the Apocalypse. 2 black, so it's only 4 mana, which, you know, it probably means it's not nearly as powerful as the original one. Phyrexian Praetor 4/5 has Death Touch. That's pretty good. Whenever you draw a card, you gain 2 life. Whenever an opponent draws a card, they lose 2 life. So it has that Praetor, you know, you get a benefit, your opponents get a downside. Pretty simple. I mean, it's definitely good. This is a card that you could put in any deck, right? This is a card that you could put in the 99 of literal any deck. It's a 4/5 Death Touch creature. I love Death Touch in Commander. It just keeps people from attacking you. Whenever you draw a card, you get to gain 2 life. If I suppose if you're in a Nekusar deck, how good is this in a Nekusar deck? Oh wow, yeah, this is an auto include in any Nekusar deck. Because you're wheeling lots, so when you cast a wheel, you're going to gain 14 life, and your opponents are going to lose 14 life. Ooh, boy. As a commander, it's just like, it's okay. You could do, like, if I was to build around this, I mean, your opponent's losing 2 life whenever they draw a card is just, I mean, Blood Chief Ascension, there you go. Your Blood Chief Ascension is going to be online really quickly in this deck. As far as you go, like if I'm building around this though, I would probably do a life gain theme just because I'm guaranteed gaining 2 life on all of my turns. So Well Lost Dreams means I will get to pay 2 and draw more cards, and you know, there's lots of stuff. I just did Tavash Gloom Summoner on my Underwhelming Commander series, which I don't think I've come out with yet. But there's a whole bunch of mono black life gain stuff I did in there. That's probably what I would do with this, because you gaining life and your opponent's losing life is always good, right? So you don't, and drawing cards, of course, is always good. So as far as build around goes, this is just, I think I would probably go with a life gain theme. You know, it's all right. I think probably going to get played in the 99 of more decks, though. All right, next up we got Jett Ogannon, Mercenary, and the original Jett Ogannon. This one in particular sort of makes me smile because I have referred to the original Jett Ogannon as the worst card ever printed. The reason why is because it's an incredibly expensive, incredibly hard to cast vanilla creature for which there is no reason to ever play it, right? Any card that actually does something means that at some point you will come across a situation where it might actually be good. Playing a really expensive, multicolored vanilla creature, there's no reason for that. Okay, I don't think. Just my opinion. Anyway, we're now revisiting Jett Ogannon. They've actually done it before. There's a mono green Jett Ogannon, which interestingly enough, I also talked about in my Underwhelming Commanders video, which I don't think I've posted yet. So what they did here, so now we have an Azorius Jett Ogannon, which the original one was, but it looks like there's a green mana symbol in there. So they're sort of, I think, paying homage to the green one as well, because I guess they figured it probably didn't make sense that you had a cat warrior that was white and blue, so they made a green one, which made more sense. Anyway, Cat Mercenary, this guy is. That's interesting that they're bringing back the mercenary creature type. So I know there's a lot of black stuff that deals with mercenaries. I don't know if there's anything in white and blue that does. 3/3. When Jett Ogannon Mercenary or another legendary creature enters the battlefield under your control, you may pay green. If you do, create a 2/2 green warrior cat creature token Force Walk. Okay, so they are absolutely revisiting the green Jett Ogannon with the cat token and the Forest Walk. Very interesting. So they're sort of combining a couple of things here. They are doing the green Jett Ogannon thing, but they're also doing the the original Jett Ogannon thing because it's a legendary creature. That's all that it is, right? So it's a vanilla creature. It doesn't do anything. But we've seen the legendary theme a little bit in Azorius colors before. So there is some support there, of course. You could throw Sisay in this deck, which of course you probably would, because that is it's white and green. It's going to fit in this deck. This deck is Bant, obviously, right? This is a white, green, blue deck. It's a Bant commander. So you could throw Sisay in here, go fetch you a bunch of legendary creatures. This is Jett Ogannon triggers this himself, so you probably want to wait till turn 4 to cast him, because when he enters the battlefield, you can pay the extra green and get the 2/2 forest walk cat warrior. Yavimaya would probably go in this deck because you want all your opponents to have forests, so your creatures are unblockable. By the way, I love that they brought Landwalk back. They disappeared that for years and years and years and years, and then just a couple of years ago started bringing it back, which I actually like. Yeah, other than that, pretty self-explanatory. It's, legendary tribal. It's a legendary tribal, but you have that cat thing thrown in there as well, right? Which is, obviously, you could build around that a little bit. You could throw some cat tribal stuff in here because your commander is a cat, obviously, and you're making cat tokens, so it might be worth it. To put feline sovereign in there would be a great one, because whenever you connect with your forest walking tokens, which could possibly be unblockable, you can be destroying artifacts and enchantments, so that seems like a great fit. The other one that is dealing with cat tokens when they are dealing with cats when they enter the battlefield, destroying artifacts and enchantments. The name escapes me off the top of my head. That also would be probably an auto include here, because just getting great value off of creating those tokens. So you could go to a little bit of I don't know how many legendary cats there are, which would of course fit both themes, but there's probably a few that you could throw in here. But mostly you're going to want to do, I would say, probably good stuff, legendary creature tribal, right? Which of course there's lots to support that. All right, moving on. Roga, Kirkkeep Overlord. So you have Roguerack, son of Roga, right? And the reason why he's the son of Roga is because Roga was the original Kobold commander, right? And if you look at the original one, if I remember correctly, I think you have to pay an upkeep or else your opponents gain control of them, right? Because the whole thing with kobolds is they're easily swayed, they're easily manipulated, they're not very bright. If you play D&D, that's the case. They're very commonly servants of like dragons and stuff, because they can easily be controlled or swayed or whatever. Anyway, 3 black, red, Kobold Warrior 4/4. Other kobolds you control get +2/+2. So you're already getting that Anthem effect. Obviously, you want Kobold Tribal here, right? There's not a ton of kobolds in the game. There's a few. You mostly want to be creating Kobold tokens, right? It's sort of like the Goat Tribal deck that I did, where there's not really a lot of good goats to build around, but there is token creators, and token creators are often repeatable, right? So Kirkkeep, for example, you would obviously put in here because it's creating those tokens repeatedly, which typically are O1s. Kobolds are typically O1s, but they're going to be 2/3s here, right? Whenever you cast a Kobold spell, so you actually do want to cast Kobolds. I stand corrected. I mean, you're going to be limited here. You may pay 2 if you do create a 4/4 red dread. Wow. Okay, so huge payoff there. Because of what exactly what I just said, there's not a lot of kobolds to choose from, so it's not going to be really easy for you. Obviously, you can use changelings, though. That's where this guy's going to be a lot better. The original kobolds were 0 mana creatures, for those who don't know. You didn't have to pay any mana, so this, now if you have the 0, and I think, is there 2 or 3? I can't remember how many there are. The original kobolds were 0 mana, so this just becomes pay 2, create a 4/4 red dragon with flying. That's really good, right? Because obviously you cast the kobold, which costs 0, and then you just pay the 2 and create the dragon token. That's really good. But again, there are not a lot of kobolds to choose from. Is there any others other than that? I think you probably could put the original Roguerack in here, or the original Roga in here. Obviously Roguerack as well you could put in here, which also costs 0. And then obviously you would do the changeling thing quite a bit. And the funny thing about this is whenever you cast a kobold spell, Nameless Inversion, personal favorite of mine, that is a spell that is changeling. It's not even a creature. It's just it is a kobold spell though, because it is a changeling spell. So, and there's a few of those. There's a few changeling spells that aren't even creatures. So if you cast Nameless Inversion, that would trigger this, and you could pay the 2 and create the dragon token. So that's really interesting. A lot you can do there. And of course, the last ability is going to be creating 0/1 kobolds, because you just have to, right? Whenever you cast a dragon spell, create an 0/1 red kobold creature. Wow. Okay, so now we really want to do the changeling thing, because of course, when I cast that Nameless Inversion, I'm going to be triggering the first and the second, or the third and the second and the third ability, because it's a kobold spell and a dragon spell. So now I almost don't like that, because now it encourages you to do changelings rather than, I mean, I guess you are a little limited. I mean, you're going to want to put a Taurine Mauler in here and all the usual suspects. But this encourages you, because it triggers on kobold spell and dragon spell. It encourages you to do changeling rather than actually cast kobolds or dragons. Like, I don't know why you would put any dragons in this deck. What's the point? I really don't. You're going to cast a big dragon spell, and the only benefit you get is an 0/1 red kobold creature token. Doesn't seem like it's worth it. I would put the 0 mana kobolds in here, because paying 2 to create a 4/4 dragon is pretty good. You also have the Anthem. Putting dragons in here, though, I don't think I would do that. I would do the changeling thing quite a bit, though. Again, I cast a changeling spell. It doesn't even have to be a creature. I can pay 2, get a 4/4 dragon, and I also get the 0/1 kobold as well. So I think probably people will be doing that a lot with this guy. All right, moving on. Ramses Assassin Lord, and of course, Ramses Overdark was the original. One of my favorite commander names, or legendary creature names. All those original Legends creatures had really cool names. Another one I did on my Underwhelming Commander series. Check it out if you want to. 2 blue and a black human assassin, 4/4 with death touch. Other assassins you control get +1/+1. We've done it, everybody. We have officially an assassin commander. Blue and black seems interesting for that. Of course, Ramses is an assassin. Is there enough support here? I can think of one card that specifically deals with assassins that you would put in here. I can't remember the name. I'll put it up there. It exiles an assassin card from your graveyard to destroy a creature. It's a very interesting, weird card. When a player loses the game, oh boy, if they were attacked this turn by an assassin you controlled, you win the game. Oh man. Oh man. That is very interesting. If a player loses, so if you can, oh man. So what you want to do is you want to attack your opponents with an assassin, and if you finish them off with that, and assassins aren't typically big creatures, right? They're usually like smaller, one like Ramses might be the biggest one out there. They're usually small. When a player loses the game, if they were attacked this turn by an assassin you control, you win the game. Wow. Whew. I think Vorpal Sword is definitely going to be a great fit here, right? This is an arch enemy commander. It just is. Unfortunately, it's funny and it's interesting, but I just think you're gonna. There's no way your opponents are going to allow this to stay on the table, because anyone who loses, as soon as this hits the table, your opponents are all going to be on high alert, and they're going to be watching for this scenario. Because of course, if you cause one of the, like, usually if my opponent's about to lose the game, what do I care? But in this situation, now I've lost the game as well, obviously, because you win the game. I just don't think it's going to happen. I think this scenario, unless there is some convoluted combo you can get into here where your opponents don't see it coming, which in that case maybe they'll even be on more high alert once that combo becomes known. This just seems like a commander that is almost unplayable, because it's just going to be a commander that no one is going to allow to stay on the table, because they're going to be so worried about that scenario, which is unfortunate, but to be expected, right? I mean, I would, if you're sitting there and your opponent has this commander and you're like looking at your opponents whose lives are like getting low, is there any way you let this stay on the table? No way, right? So yeah, it's interesting. I don't think it's going to be, it might be one of those commanders that people go after right away and then realize, I never get this scenario off. It never actually happens, so screw it. I'm packing it up. I'm pulling that deck apart. I think that's going to happen a lot. Yeah. All right, lastly today, Hazazon, Shaper of Sand. And of course, again, the original Hazazon, which is a pretty interesting commander, is Naya. And he enters the battlefield, and at the beginning of your next upkeep, you create a sand creature token, a sand warrior, I believe, which I'm sure will be on this card as well, for each land you control. So it's a combination of I'm creating sand warriors, and it's a lands theme as well. So, Shaper of Sand, and judging by the name, I think we're going to go in a similar direction here. Red, green, and a white. So 3 mana, Naya Commander, Human Warrior 3/3, has Desert Walk. Fantastic. So, of course, this creature can't be blocked as long as the defending player controls a desert, right? It's always looking at that land type, whatever the type of land is. Again, I just did. It's funny how I keep referencing my Underwhelming Commanders video, which I haven't come out yet. I just did. I won't spoil it for you, but the winner of that video had a land walk ability, which I talked about. So if your opponents control deserts, and that is not something that you're never going to see. There are a fair amount of deserts because of Amonkhet. They revisited, I believe it was Amonkhet where they revisited the whole desert thing, and we saw a lot more, and some that are very usable in the format. Most notably, Scavenger Grounds is one that I put in all my decks because you got to have that graveyard hate. That's a desert, so now your commander is unblockable if I have my Scavenger Grounds, right? You may play desert lands from your graveyard. Wow, so we are in a actual desert tribal theme here. That's great. And of course, like I just said, there was a bunch. There was original. So there's the original desert. If I remember correctly, does it deal a damage to an attacking creature? I think. And then there's a whole bunch more from Amonkhet. Amonkhet and what is it? Hour of Devastation. Those sets had a whole bunch more of desert stuff, and a lot of them are like Scavenger Grounds. You sacrifice it to use its ability. You're sacrificing these deserts to use their abilities. So of course you may play desert land cards from your graveyard is going to be great for that. You can do an actual desert lands theme here. Now Scavenger Grounds is not going to be a great fit because it exiles all graveyards. So that, even though you probably would put it in the deck, sort of doesn't fit in a way because you don't want to exile your graveyard, but there's a lot of those. They're sacrificing to each other and stuff like that, right? The last ability, though, whenever a desert enters the battlefield under your control, create two 1/1 red, green, white sand warrior creature tokens. Yeah. So again, we're creating those tokens. So anytime you play a desert, you're creating 2 tokens. So now we're in a token theme. A lot you can do with the token theme. There's a whole bunch of cards from New Capenna that did Naya tokens was a theme in New Capenna. So if you were building this deck, you could go back there and look at all those. How many deserts is there actually? I will throw it on the screen. How many actual deserts you can throw in this deck? There's probably a lot. You could probably make a desert land drop almost every turn, especially if you can play them from your graveyard, because you can sacrifice them to their own ability and then play them from their graveyard to get this trigger. So you can be getting this trigger pretty much every turn, right? And then you can build around. So you can do the desert land theme, of course. That's not an entire deck though, right? Because you're already, your lands are deserts. That's it. The drawback here is probably most of your lands are going to enter the battlefield tapped, which will slow you down a little bit. But making all your lands into deserts is going to be an easy fit. You still have all the rest of the cards in the 9/9, and that can be the token support, which of course there's a ton. You can put Anointed Procession, Parallel Lives. You know, there's so much support in token themes now. Even in white, as I talked about recently, there's a ton of support there. You can put the Busybody. What's her face? Ellen Busybody. You're going to create 2 tokens, so you tap her, look at the top 2 cards of your library, put one in your hand. She seems like a great fit, right? There's tons of support in the token theme, and the deserts theme sort of builds itself. Great commander. This is going to be an easy build around, and I think it's going to be a popular one. But that is it. That is all. 5 more commanders from Dominaria United, and I might be making one of these videos every single day. That's how many commanders are going to be in this set, I have a feeling, and there's so much to talk about. I like talking about it. It's funny seeing these old commanders from back in the day, and they're sort of revisiting them. Flavor-wise, they're doing a pretty good job, though, where they're fitting the same theme that they had from before, which is great. I like it a lot. Let me know what you think of these new guys in the comments below. That is it for today, and thanks for tuning in.